What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/NuclearRevenge, with a story at the end from r/Tales of Neckbeard, because we haven't read from there in a while, and I love that subreddit. And also, we need that whole palette cleanser at the end that's not so dark. However, it might be dark, I don't know. Neckbeard stories can be like, haha, or oh my god, that's concerning. Last time, we read the story called My Personal Crusade Against the Man That Destroyed the Person I Could Have Become, Part 2. This time, we're reading the long-awaited, because I forgot, Part 3 to our 3-part trilogy, and it's called My Personal Crusade Against the Man That Destroyed the Person I Could Have Become, Part 3. I don't know about you, but that title absolutely surprised me. So, let's get started. Well, this is the final part of this long story. I will say that I don't do very much in this last part. I mostly just observed very closely and made a few phone calls. Oh, and one breaking and entering. So, at the end of Part 2, Jerry was getting arrested for a DUI and in possession of a stolen firearm. Well, Jerry was still in county lockup. Side note! So, you might be aware of the fact that I had a pretty serious drug habit. I made most of my money in those days by the buying and selling of drugs, and because of that, I had a few acquaintances in the same jail, and for just a few bucks to be put on some of their books, I was made aware of all of Jerry's info. So it turned out that Jerry had a pretty solid alibi for the night of the breaking and entering at Tom's house, and all he was going to be charged with was the DUI and possession of a stolen firearm. At first, I'm not done yet. I watched Jerry's house closely. In less than a week after his arrest, his ex-fiancée moved out of Jerry's house, so since nobody's home, I gained access to it. The first thing I found was a note to Jerry from his ex. It was a long note with her describing what she had found and how disgusting it was, and calling Jerry every name in the book, also stating that if he tries to contact her at all, that she will go to the police with what she found. Side note, I was absolutely appalled that she wasn't already going to the police, so I went through the whole place and found a few items that would fetch a good amount of money, and some money. I found his office and PC, and disabled the screensaver in sleep mode, and then found an image, opened it, and left it on screen. I wish I didn't have to see the image. It gave me terrible flashbacks, but it was necessary for my plan. Then I left a note behind right next to the one left by Jerry's ex, then left, and when I was a safe distance from the house, I made a phone call to the police. I told them that I think someone has broken into my neighbor's house, Jerry's house. This is what was on the note that I left behind. Of course, for anonymity's sake, it's not exactly what I wrote. Dear police, I'm the person who called in the tip. I did this because of the horrifying things I found on the PC in the office. I left it open on the desktop so you don't even have to touch it from the thief. So about a week later, I received word that Jerry was moved into protective custody. After he gets out of the hospital, he got shanked by his cellmate, who I assume was trying to make his bones, and hope that he did. Because Jerry had been talking openly about his new charges that were a DUI, possession of a stolen firearm, possession of bad video and bad stuff. This is pure conjecture, but I assume that he had a video of himself on his PC. It took about 18 months for the trial to be done, and he was convicted of all charges and received 15 years. So that's the whole story. Am I done? Well, I don't know. Jerry should be getting out in a few years. Maybe I'll pay him a little visit. But maybe I made this whole thing up. Who knows? Really, only 15? If there was a video of himself doing... Okay. I mean, I'm not gonna... That deserves more than 15. I know for a fact. Come on, man. But anyway, people in prison don't like hearing stuff like that. And that's a very real thing. So maybe it doesn't matter how many years he gets because, well, it's not going to be very long regardless. Anyway, this was a crazy story. Very nuclear. Geez, man. You're hardcore. I dig it. And his username is user Ghost of a Sociopath. That's pretty crazy, bro. It's pretty crazy. Hope everything is good with you now, man. I'm gonna go now on to the next story, so, later. So awkward, man. Alright, this story is called I Got My Abusive Ex Sent to Prison in False Charges. Whoa, this is definitely going to be one of the cruelest things you have ever read. Oh boy. Warning, mentions of miscarriage and abuse. This happened around 40 years ago. I used to live in a conservative country. The whole women don't work, men can't be abused, get out of baby card is a punishable crime sort of country. I was dating a girl at the time. She was a typical narcissist. 1 year into the relationship and she was abusing me in every way. Verbal, physical, sexual. At that time, I didn't even realize what I was going through was abuse. She forced me to sleep with her and forcibly got herself pregnant. When I told her I wanted space, she told me how I must always be with her or the child will pay the price. She used to threaten me, saying that the child will die if I leave her. A few weeks into the pregnancy and I wanted out. I was very confused at the time. I felt angry, frustrated, disgusted with myself, but I didn't know why. I knew what was happening was wrong, but I couldn't articulate my feelings to others. All I knew was that I need to get out or I wasn't going to survive. So I got a transfer to another city secretly. I was planning to leave and never look back, but the thought of an innocent child under her mercy was unbearable. Then I put another plan into motion. I got get out of baby pills from a dealer with cash. I had to travel to another city for a week for work. I ground the pills and replaced the powder inside her medicine capsules with the get out of baby pills powder. She takes that medicine daily. I told her I am breaking up with her just before leaving, and I told her I will leave the city by the end of the month. She called all our mutual acquaintances and told them about how heartless I was being. The child got out of babied while I was away on a business trip. She was detained by the time I came back because the doctor suspected that it was a get out of baby up thing and not a miscarriage. When the police questioned me, I told them that I told her I was breaking up with her and that I was all set to move to another city by the end of the month. This was confirmed by others. The police thought she performed an illegal get out of baby to avoid being a single mother. She didn't have a job and it is generally frowned upon having kids out of wedlock. She got sentenced to 25 years in prison for homicide. She died in prison after serving 23 years. She was a horrible person to me, but there is no sure way of me justifying my actions by saying she would have been horrible to the child too. Maybe she would have changed. Maybe she would have come to her senses once I left. Maybe her mother instincts would have kicked in and she would have been an amazing mother. It just wasn't a chance that I was willing to take. I made a choice by getting into a relationship with her. I just couldn't even entertain the thought of leaving an innocent baby with a person like her. I am a butthole, a murderer, and a fraud, but I don't regret what I was forced to do. Yes, I don't feel comfortable sharing my abuse, but I can honestly say that being violated in a horrible way wasn't the worst of it. There were other much horrible physical abuse, some of which I can't talk about to this day. Yahtzee, that's a dark one, man. Well, thank you for sharing. Can't have been an easy thing to do that. And, well, this is a whole mess of a situation, man. But this story is an important lesson that morality isn't always black and white. So much, it's muddled, man. Lines are blurred. It's not clear cut and dry. And there's so many questions about morality to be asked here. Like, are you of the opinion that the end justifies the means? Or, like, OP undeniably did something that is morally questionable. Regardless of your stance on get out of babying, we can all agree from like an objective perspective, stealth get out of babying her was kind of like questionable, man. But that's if we look at it without context, and god dang, he was very much a victim here, and that's something that must not be understated. So OP, thank you for sharing, and I hope all is well. Alright, this story is called No Divorce. I hope I can say that. So this little story begins with me and my wife happily married. We had 2 wonderful daughters, 13 and 10, and a pretty healthy relationship. Or so I thought. Anyway, at some point, things started to appear off. She got very clingy to her phone all of a sudden, made sure to delete the saved password feature on our common PC, stated having phone calls that suddenly ended when I came into the house and room. You can probably guess what it was. Now, having 15 years of marriage behind us, I was hoping it wasn't what it obviously seemed to be. So one day when she told me she was going to spend some time with the girls, I decided to follow her. Sure enough, I find her driving to a hotel to meet with, let's just call him Penis. To say it was a gut punch was an understatement. I literally cried for an hour straight. After I was done with my self-wallowing phase, I decided the best course was getting even. I thought of several scenarios that may or may not have involved me beating Penis into a bloody pulp. As if you don't already. Eventually, I decided to do things more civilly and, more importantly, legally, but only just. So the first part of the plan was gathering evidence. I could have just gotten a private investigator, but I had something better in mind. So one day when my wife was at her job and the kids at school, I installed some small secret cameras and microphones I had bought. Due to the setup of our bedroom, I even managed to get one perfectly overlooking the bed. I didn't, however, use them while I was at home. So a couple of days passed when I proposed to my wife that the second to next weekend I should take the girls on a trip to landside that I will not reveal and stay a night too. At this point, I should also mention that due to her job being pretty demanding and frequently exhausting her, and just due to our various passions and talents, I was always the main caregiver. I more often than not was the one cooking. I took a far more active role in raising the girls and showed them a lot more patience and attention. I didn't spoil them or anything like that. So me going alone with the girls on a trip wasn't that weird. This part will also be very important later. So 2 weeks pass, in which time I get my affairs in order and contact a lawyer to write up a separation agreement that would involve me keeping residence and custody. I go on the trip, try not to give anything away to the girls, and wait to see if Penis and my wife fall into the trap. When I returned, I checked the recordings of the weekend, and sure enough, it's a 36-hour love-making fest. When they weren't love-making, the dialogue was something even better. I found out that Penis had a wife. Though more on her later. But even worse, they also talked about me. And besides the obvious sexual character assassination that I expected about how small my penis was, how I didn't satisfy her, etc., etc., there was some really hurtful stuff, like her telling Penis some of my deepest secrets and shameful stories that I only had told her about, just so they could have a laugh. So at this point, I didn't have any doubts on what to do. The next day, when the kids left, but before my wife left, I confronted her with the video and told her that either she signs the separation agreement and leaves the house, or the girls are going to receive an in-depth explanation of all the orifices mommy got loved in. I wasn't gonna do that, just to be clear. I love my daughters too much, but I put the threat there, and she was too emotional to realize my bluff. She went through all the stages, denying everything, trying to bargain, threatening me, and getting angry. I let it go through all that stuff. Eventually, she signed the paper and she departed that very evening after she told her goodbyes to the girls. I didn't show or tell the girls anything graphic. I was always very honest with them, which is another reason why I was always the favorite parent. So I just said that mommy had been unfaithful. The younger one took some time figuring it out, but that was made up by my older getting mightily upset. She had just gotten her first boyfriend, as I'm not sure the term really applies at that age, but she knew enough of the world to get pissed off big time. This would be important at a would-be custody battle, as though she did for the moment agree to give over custody. I feared, and I was right to fear, that she would try and fight me for the kids. What I didn't expect was for her to use her visitation nights to talk crap about me. Basically, she started telling my younger about how it was all my fault for not forgiving her. Her lawyer even started demanding she receive custody. There was no way for her to receive money or the house as she was caught cheating, and in my state, that means quite a lot in divorce proceedings. So I finally activated my nuclear revenge plan. Enter trip to South Carolina. Why South Carolina? Simple. Fort Sumter. I really wanted my daughters to see it. I definitely did not go there because it is one of the last places where revenge video of the adult variety isn't illegal, and where I could upload my wife and penis's escapades with no worries on video of the adult variety hub and other such sites, as you cannot be prosecuted for crimes that weren't illegal when and where they were committed. I sent the links to my wife's employer, her clients, and everybody in her line of work, just to be sure. To Penis's wife and to his firm. Penis soon got a divorce. I feel sorry for his wife, as she was an innocent victim in all this, but I think it's better that she found out. As for my wife, this was the end of any chance to get custody. She soon got fired from her job of 8 years, and while the revenge video of the adult variety part was a real schlong move that did count in court, it being done in South Carolina, it wasn't illegal or prosecutable, so it could be only used as a minus about my personality. But with my wife unemployed and practically being blacklisted in her profession due to being on video of the adult variety hub, as well as the girls, or to put it better, my younger, being told what to do by my older, stating they wanted to stay with me, there was no question on who would get the custody. Yes, due to her being unemployed, I got no alimony, but honestly, I make enough money to sustain both me and the girls, so I don't care. And I'm good enough at caring for them, and they're old enough to allow me to have a full-time job. Several months later, my wife is still unemployed, though I do not know if it's from the video of the adult variety or from the virus. The girls are growing up just fine and don't seem to mind not seeing their mean woman mother. The last time I communicated with my ex-wife was on Facebook, where she told me how I ruined her life and her relation to her daughters. But honestly, I think she earned it. Well, okay, while I certainly don't approve of revenge video of the adult variety, it got you custody of your daughters when, well, I mean, there's the obvious bias towards the mother in like a court custody battle thing. Pretty sure it's like common knowledge. So yeah, it's a good thing. Cheating unemployed ex-wife does not get the kids. Employed non-cheating husband did get the kids, which is good. Alright, this story from r/Tales of Neckbeard. Neckbeard Joker tryhard harasses Ray. There is nothing quite like the energy that surrounds a huge nerd convention. My first time at PAX East had been an absolute blast, and I was hooked on the euphoric feeling that can only come from being surrounded by other nerds and geeks. My second year at PAX, I decided to cosplay for the first time. After being told a few times I looked like a brown-eyed Ray when I wore the iconic buns, I knew it had to happen. I just had to cosplay Ray. So over the course of many weeks, I scavenged, glued, painted, sewed, and created a passable Ray outfit. I'd like to note before I continue that I have anxiety and some body image issues, so doing this was a huge deal for me. I was stepping out of a shell and embracing myself. Anyway, all was dandy up until lunchtime.
Ray, can I have a picture?
I turn around to see a portly man in his 30s dressed up as the Joker, but with a creepy smiley mask of some other edgy character. Of course, I replied, handing my food to a friend. I took a stance, my face serious.
Can you smile in the next photo?
I nodded and put on a false smile. At this point, I was getting a little nervous and my heart rate increased.
Smile more. Smile until your cheeks rip open and blood spills everywhere,
he said in an obvious attempt at a Joker-esque voice. I paused in shock. I could tell one of my friends was going to tell the neckbeard off, so I quickly smiled and said, "Okay." The Joker neckbeard snapped a few more photos. At that point, all was a blur, and I'm fairly certain he repeated his bloody smile command. I remember giving a false laugh and saying, "Thank you, Mr. Joker. Enjoy the rest of the con," and speeding away, my concerned friends following me. Other than that, the con was great. I know this experience isn't a big deal in the grand scale of things, but I've been wanting to share it for a while. Thanks for reading. Okay, this is my opinion. I wasn't there, obviously. I wasn't in her position because there's that whole power imbalance thing that can obviously result in bad things. Either that literally happen or the implication that it could happen if the woman doesn't comply. But I will say, in terms of what he did, yeah, he definitely should have been more conscious of what the hell he was doing there. But I honestly think that that was just a weird attempt at impressing a girl, maybe. But like, when you're trying to do that, and this goes for like everyone, you gotta think more carefully how the other party might feel with what you're doing. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.